So, there's been a lot of talk as of late about the idea of superhero fatigue. With movies like Ant-Man Quantumania and Shazam Fury of the Gods underperforming at the box office, a lot of people have been concerned that general audiences may have moved on from costumed heroes, but I don't know if that's really the case. It's something that I've been thinking about for a while, and while there's definitely some shift happening, I think that it's more complicated than just people are tired of superheroes now. And this is coming from a completely unbiased perspective. Completely unbiased. Now, don't get me wrong, I 100% believe that we are seeing a shift in the cultural zeitgeist. Whether or not it's a superhero fatigue, though, isn't that simple, but I do understand where the sentiment comes from. For years, the superhero movie has absolutely dominated the blockbuster scene. Of course, we had hits like Superman and Batman in the 70s and 80s, and movies like Blade in '98, but I would say that the birth of the modern superhero movie was in the year 2000 with X-Men. After the success of that movie, we saw a huge surge in comic book adaptations. Hellboy, Hulk, Daredevil, Punisher, Fantastic Four, Ghost Rider, and of course Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy and Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. But then in 2008, Iron Man released, and with Sam Jackson in the post-credit scene, the Marvel Cinematic Universe was born. Phase 1 of the MCU did reasonably well, but it wasn't until the Avengers in 2012 when it really became a household name. And since then, the MCU quickly became a cultural juggernaut. Wait, hang on, not that one? And now Marvel is the de facto name that audiences think of when it comes to superheroes. When talking about the superhero boom, its similarities to the Western are brought up a lot. Not only are cowboys and a lot of superheroes both deeply rooted in American culture, for better or for worse, but back in the mid-20th century, the Western also had a massive boom on screen, with hundreds of them releasing in the 1940s and 50s. But eventually Westerns started dying out. They still get made today, of course, but not nearly to the same degree. Whether it's because new technology allowed filmmakers to go elsewhere, even the stars, or changing cultural values regarding injustice for indigenous cultures in the idealized version of the American West overall, or just because people got tired of them, that can be discussed and debated all day. The fact remains that a once thriving film genre had a massive boom, and general audiences lost interest and moved on. And there's always the risk that it can happen again. Okay, so what changed? We've had superhero movies for decades. Why would a shift be happening now? The way I see it, it's a mix of a lot of different things. Firstly was Avengers Endgame. It's right there in the title, Endgame. That movie marketed itself as the finale to the MCU and served as the conclusion to 3 of its biggest characters. Now, we all know that it wasn't, of course. It left room to expand, and Far From Home did perfectly well a few months later, but to a lot of general audiences, that was the big conclusion of the past 11 years. And then we had this little thing called a global pandemic. COVID shut down not only filming and production, but also movie theaters, meaning we had a full 2 years in between Marvel movies. And just in general, the entire Phase 4 of the MCU was absurdly packed. Marvel released 8 movies, all in less than a year and a half, and that's not even to mention the start of Phase 5 and the seemingly constant stream of Disney Plus shows. WandaVision was of course a huge hit and got a lot of people interested in Marvel, and there were some great ones in there, but for nearly 2 years, Marvel seemed to be prioritizing quantity over quality, and that has seemingly led to a lot of people getting burnt out. Now, this is just my opinion, because everything in this video is my opinion, but to make this burnout even worse was the filmmaking when it came to a lot of superhero movies as of late. With a few exceptions, of course, due to the frequency of releases from the company, Marvel's been cutting a lot more corners when it comes to the actual production of their movies. Things are changed at the last minute, actors are just filmed on a soundstage for coverage, sometimes they don't even know what they're filming while they're filming it, VFX is rushed and used for things that otherwise would have been better practically, the technology of the volume isn't used right, making backgrounds look fake, everything has this sort of bland, evenly soft lighting to allow for changes in post. Again, there are some exceptions to this, of course, and there's some great movies in there, but once you notice these things, you can't really unnotice them. And in my personal opinion, this direction of the multiverse saga has never really been that interesting to me, even as a big comics fan. And it's made even worse because of, you know, frankly, at this point, I'm only interested in what happens with Daredevil, the next Spider-Man, and whatever they end up doing with the X-Men. And I wouldn't be surprised if other people felt the same way. And before you come at me and say that I'm some Marvel hater or anything, it wasn't just the MCU. The Suicide Squad, one of my favorite superhero movies of the last few years, and Wonder Woman 84, one of the superhero movies of the last few years, were both released on HBO Max, where not everyone had access to. The Flash is just a nightmare overall. I don't know what's going on with that thing. And don't even get me started on Morbius. And finally, this all coincided with probably the single best year for blockbusters in decades. Top Gun: Maverick, Avatar: The Way of Water, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Nope, even Matt Reeves' The Batman. All fantastic movies made with so much craft and love for the art of filmmaking, with visuals that are 100% intentional. Nothing's ever shot just for coverage. Things are done practically if they can be. The actors are actually in the same room as each other. And a lot of people started to remember how good blockbusters can be and how special the art of film is. No longer were they watching homework or set up for a cinematic universe or content to fill a streaming service, but they were watching movies. And that's not even to mention how fantastic the last year was for horror fans. If you ask me, I think the biggest thing that these superhero movies need to be doing better is stand out. Shazam Fury of the Gods is a perfect example of this. Now, the movie honestly isn't that bad. It's not amazing by any means, but there's a lot to it that I really enjoyed. The director, David F. Sandberg, brings a lot of heart to the movie, just like he did with the first one. He seems like a really cool guy, and I really respect everything that he's made. Just like the first one, the family dynamic was incredible. Asher Angel is once again fantastic as Billy Batson, but is unfortunately not given much screen time and is pulled down by Zachary Levi's completely different take on the character. And in an attempt to go bigger in scale, it loses a lot of the things that made the first movie so special in my eyes. But overall, it's still a pretty decent time and nowhere near the worst superhero movie I've ever seen or anything. Frankly, I think that the movie was kind of sent out to die. Not only is this right before DC's next big universe reboot, making it seem pointless to a lot of the fans and alienating that audience, it came out on digital less than a month later. I don't know what the hell's going on with Zachary Levi right now. And most importantly, the marketing was just flat out terrible.
I just threw a truck at a dragon. I love my life.
Frankly, the only reason I went to go see it is because I like the director, I like the characters, and my girlfriend wanted to go see Rachel Zegler. Each and every one of the trailers presented this movie like it was any other big budget superhero thing, as opposed to highlighting what made it interesting. And this is indicative of a bigger problem when it comes to the superhero landscape, and that has to do with genre. Because contrary to popular belief, superhero isn't a genre. In the same way that space or history or animation aren't genres, it's a framing device for the actual story. With a few exceptions, the vast majority of superhero media from the past decade fall strictly into the action, comedy, adventure genre, with only small sprinkles to make them stand out. Some of them have been great, believe me, but when every movie is the same exact tone and same exact style of storytelling, especially with 10 different things coming out a year, people are gonna get tired of that really quick. I mean, take a look at most of the movies from Phase 4. Basically, every single villain had some form of redemption, either by seeing the error of their ways or sacrificing themselves. Sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. It depended on the movie and the execution. But when a character called the God Butcher has the same exact emotional redemption arc as your anti-hero Scarlet Witch, things are gonna feel repetitive. And so filmmakers need to bend the genre and find things that make their movies stand out from the rest of the lineup. A good example of what I'm talking about is the new Dungeons & Dragons movie. It very easily could have just been a normal high fantasy adventure movie, but instead Goldstein and Daly knew that they had to do something different to stand out. So instead they made it a comedy, but not just any comedy, a heist comedy. And it sticks to those genres to a T, down to its structure and its character archetypes. The movie's basically just the Italian Job, except instead of Mini Coopers and Seth Green, we have elves, dragons, and Chris Pine playing the lute. The decision to bend the genre, to think outside the box, is what made the D&D movie so unique and so special. Also because the movie just fucking rocks. They made a whole bird they made that. Now, a lot of superhero media claims to genre bend like this. Thor: Love and Thunder promoted itself like it was a romantic comedy, despite not being that at all. The romantic or the comedy. Doctor Strange 2, a movie that I actually really like, had glimmers of horror in there, but at the end of the day still fell into the same narrative structure and stylings as the rest of the MCU. And the reason I like that movie is because of the parts where it doesn't do that, because of the parts where Jim from The Office's head explodes. That's my favorite part. But there have been superhero movies that actually do it right, and they're usually considered some of the best in the industry. At its core, Logan was a Western, The Dark Knight was a crime movie. Even the first Shazam was a coming-of-age Christmas story, all under the guise of a superhero movie. If you're a writer or a filmmaker, flipping the genre of your story can be super useful to be more original and come up with new ideas. And you can learn more screenwriting tools like this, as well as filmmaking as a whole, with today's sponsors, Skillshare. Now more than ever, it's becoming easier to learn the skills that you need to create art. Whether that's film, animation, photography, music, you name it, and Skillshare has it covered. With its wide variety of courses and classes, any skill or goal that you want to achieve, Skillshare can help make it possible. And it even has courses that help you turn what may seem like a hobby into a true and fulfilling career path. One of the biggest hurdles people have when it comes to their creativity, especially aspiring filmmakers, is a limited budget. But the course Micro-Budget Filmmaking Screenwriting by Dustin Curtis Murphy gives the resources and possibility to work around those limitations. He talks about figuring out an idea, developing characters, managing your time, and how to allocate your resources to fit within a budget. These are all things that I struggle with when trying to make bigger projects, so his tips have been super helpful for me. Thinking about our future in big artistic projects can be intimidating, but you can take the pressure off by starting small, either with productivity tips or building a personal brand, or just the step-by-step basics. The door is more open than ever to start creating art and achieving your goals, whatever those may be, and Skillshare is helping to make that possible. Genuinely, I like them as a service because I'm not trying to sell you something. I'm just trying to make you a better artist. That's why I keep doing them, because they're the best. The first 1,000 people to use my link down below will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare, and that includes their entire library of classes about literally anything. You could learn anything you want with this free trial. It's free for a month. And thanks to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. And I think that this flipping of the genre, this originality in storytelling, would do a whole lot to help ease the potential of superhero fatigue. But honestly, the real truth about this whole thing, we have this conversation every 6 months. Whether it's the MCU or the DCU or superhero movies as a whole, every time a superhero movie doesn't have 100% on Rotten Tomatoes or immediately break $1 billion opening weekend, the whole world goes crazy and we think the industry is doomed until we get another Spider-Man or Avengers and they become the biggest movies in the history of the world and things go back to normal. Even Wakanda Forever, despite not making as much as the powerhouse that was the first Black Panther, still did perfectly fine at the box office and was met with generally positive reviews. I mean, it was nominated for like 50 Oscars. The Oscars are pointless, but like that's nothing to sneeze at. And Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is a week away, and there's a huge amount of excitement around it. Way more than Quantumania, not because it relies on the Marvel brand or sets up the next big event movie, but because of the characters and the reputation that series has built in the past 9 years. Is it 9 years? When did that first one come out? Yeah, 9 years. I just checked. And let's be honest with ourselves, despite how much I enjoyed it, the first Shazam wasn't exactly the biggest box office hit in the world, and the same goes for the last Ant-Man. They have their audiences for sure, but I don't think that those two franchises are the real litmus test for if general audiences are sick of superheroes just yet. Realistically, with the straight-to-streaming model that these movies have been following and the ever-rising costs of movie tickets, a lot of people were probably just waiting for them to go to Disney Plus or HBO instead of seeing them in the theater, especially with how mixed the reviews were. The real test is going to be the Batman Part 2 or Spider-Man 4 or Avengers 5, movies that clearly have a huge fan base and a space within the cultural zeitgeist. If any of those flop, then maybe we can start talking, but for now, let's not let the entire weight of the superhero industry fall on the shoulders of Zachary Levi. There are always going to be trends in film. Nothing is going to change that. We always talk about the Western, but in the 1950s, musicals were really popular. Horror had a big boom in the 70s and 80s, and who knows what the next trend might be. Maybe it's animation or video game adaptations or highbrow horror. It is basically impossible to try and gauge eras and trends while we still live in it. But the way I see it, art is art, and good art will thrive no matter what. Regardless of what's popular and what makes money or what the suits and the focus testers say, there will always be talented people in the world who want to share something, and there will always be a market for that. Now, I joked about it before, but I am pretty biased when it comes to the topic of superhero fatigue. I've built a lot of this channel on superheroes and comic book movies, and for a while I did worry that people were going to move on from that and I'd have to pivot into a new direction. And believe me, I definitely want to talk about other things, and I enjoy doing that, and I found success with that. So if there really is a big superhero burnout, I'm not going to turn to dust or anything. But even regardless of my position as a content creator, I don't think that the discussion and fascination with superheroes is ever going to entirely disappear. I mean, there's a reason that characters like Superman and Batman have existed for almost 100 years. Just like how even though Westerns aren't as popular as they used to be, it's not like they've completely vanished. We still get the occasional Western from time to time, and when we do, it's usually the result of someone who really loves Westerns and can make a good Western. And the same will apply for superheroes. My entire time on this channel, I've been constantly pushing for one thing, and that's for superhero media to be the best that it can possibly be. For the space to break out of just being fun action movies and instead something bigger. Because I think that the concept of the superhero has so much potential to do so much good when in the right hands. Whether it's the little things, like making someone who's underrepresented feel like they have power and have a voice, or symbols against the ever-present threat of fascism and hate, or even just a hand reaching down to pick you up when you fall. It's these ideas that make the superhero archetype so special, something that can't be done any other way. And I think that humanity at its core will always need that in some way or another. Maybe we ditch the cinematic universe model and we focus on director freedom. Maybe these modern myths are finally put into the public domain so everyone can tell those stories. Or maybe these things are too big to fail and nothing will change fundamentally. Whatever happens, whatever form that it may take, I believe that we will always have those stories, and I believe that we will always have our heroes. But what are your thoughts on superhero fatigue? And let me know down below what your favorite not superhero property is that you think I should cover, because I want to cover some more things. And if you like this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Special thanks to Alto the Sting, Anne's, Already Done It, Cabbage Boy, Cassidy Bond, Chicken McDoofus, Cosmic Tragedy, Eden Kenna, Iron Ninja, Jake Selig, Jonah, Corey's Not Fresh, Lime Spice XL, Logan Triplet Films, Simply Dan, Spectacular Clyde, Tim Neufeld, Choices by Erasures Lame, Tyler Goodrich, Yash Kapoor, Zachary Stonebreaker, Zero to Hero 148, and ZZ Toasty for being spectacular fanboys on my Patreon. This has been Tory Boy 17 coming at you live. Be responsible, and I'll see you around.